What if the biggest mistake of your life wasn't getting caught, but being forgiven? Masato grew up in a small, steady world. It wasn't perfect, but it was predictable. After losing his mother at a young age, his universe narrowed down to just two people, himself and his father. Their apartment was modest, their routines almost mechanical. Breakfast at the same table. Silence that wasn't awkward. Evenings that felt like an unspoken agreement. We are enough for each other. And then, one day, his father remarried. Yuri entered not like a storm, but like soft furniture delivered into a room that had never been rearranged. She wasn't loud, she wasn't demanding. She didn't try to claim authority. If anything, she was careful, almost too careful, smiling gently, asking permission before touching anything, trying to occupy as little emotional space as possible. But here's the thing about change. It doesn't need to be aggressive to feel invasive. For Masato, the problem wasn't Yuri as a person. It was what she represented. A shift, a reminder that life moves on, that grief can be folded up and placed in a drawer, that his father, his only constant, had room in his heart for someone else. He wasn't angry. That would have been easier to understand. He was unsettled, off balance, like someone had quietly edited the script of his life without asking for approval. At 16, emotions don't come with subtitles. You don't always know whether you're feeling jealousy, fear, insecurity, or just the awkwardness of adolescence. All Masato knew was that the house felt different. His father laughed a little more. The air smelled different. Even the silence had changed. And in blended families, the tension rarely explodes at first. It simmers. It hides in polite conversations. In forced good mornings. In the way someone hesitates before calling another person mom. Yuri noticed the distance. Of course she did. Adults often pretend they don't see discomfort because they're afraid of making it worse. She chose patience. Masato chose withdrawal. Two people, both trying not to hurt the other, slowly drifting further apart.
大丈夫ですか？これ。
ありがとう。
俺風呂沸かしてきますね。
あ、いいよ、自分でやるから。
あ、大丈夫。早く使わないと風邪ひいちゃいますから。
ありがとう。
And then, one ordinary afternoon, a small impulsive decision would quietly expose everything that had been left unsaid. Not through shouting, not through punishment, but through something far more uncomfortable, empathy. Alone in his father's room, Masato saw the money and took it not out of greed, but for control. In adolescence, small secrets can feel like power. His mistake wasn't malicious. It revealed his quiet struggle with identity, belonging, and the fear of losing love. And then Yuri noticed, not through confrontation, not through accusation. She saw Masato avoiding eye contact. Adults often notice more than teenagers assume. Here is where many stories would escalate. A raised voice, a lecture about morality, a dramatic family dinner confrontation. But Yuri paused, because she understood something essential. When behavior is reactive, punishment rarely solves the root cause. It only addresses the surface. She didn't mention it that day. She didn't tell his father. She simply observed, reflected, asked herself a difficult question. Is this about money, or is this about pain? And in that quiet space between knowing and reacting, she made a choice that would shift the emotional trajectory of their entire household. Masato was prepared for exposure. That's the strange thing about guilt. It makes you rehearse your own trial. Every time his father called his name from the living room, his heart jumped. Every time Yuri glanced in his direction, he braced himself for the inevitable, "We need to talk." But the confrontation never came. She didn't accuse him. She didn't mention what she knew. She simply said, "If you need anything, just ask. You don't have to bear this burden alone." No moral lecture, no evidence presented, no demand for apology, just an invitation. Masato replayed every small interaction with Yuri, the careful smiles, the respectful distance, the way she asked about his day, even when he responded with one-word answers. For the first time, he considered a possibility he hadn't allowed himself to entertain. Maybe she wasn't trying to replace anyone. Maybe she was trying not to. Yuri's response disrupted Masato's internal narrative. Because here's what she truly did: she shielded him. The defensive wall he had built began to crack, not because it was attacked, but because it was no longer necessary. In that brief moment, Masato understood a lesson that many adults still struggle to grasp. Love isn't proven through control. It's proven through trust. And sometimes, the most powerful authority in a household is the one that chooses not to dominate. Masato's turning point wasn't fear of being caught. It was the realization that someone saw his flaw and chose not to define him by it. And perhaps that's the quiet truth this film leaves us with sometimes. The lesson of a lifetime doesn't arrive through punishment or grand declarations. It arrives through a gentle note on a desk, reminding us that belonging is not a competition. It's a choice we make, again and again, to stay.
よし、二人とも笑ってな。よし。